Hi, welcome to the KiwaniTalk show. My name is Gary Gardner, your host for this very special episode. Welcome to the longest running cable access program in the entire universe. We're here at Dearborn High School, home of the Dearborn Pioneers, my alma mater, and the facilities here. We're helped out by students and staff from the school, members of our club, Dearborn Kiwanis Club, and welcome to our viewers in 42 cities around southeastern Michigan that get to watch us. Today we're talking about a subject that's very important, very kind of near and dear to my heart. We'll get into that a little bit. We're talking about the Lennon Pregnancy Center. With us today we have the Executive Director of the Lennon Pregnancy Center, Mariann Bolton. Mariann, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate this moment.
And the reason I said it's special is because I was adopted, okay? So my mother
Congrats, that's great.
did what hopefully some of the people in your center do who
Yes.
have crisis pregnancies or people who need help. Put me up, so I consider myself to have two mothers. And I'm very, very lucky to have that, so I appreciate that. So, Mariann Bolton, you're the Executive Director of the Lennon Pregnancy Center,
That's
but you
correct.
weren't always that. You had a
No.
life before that, I'm sure. Where did you
Yeah.
grow up and how did you get to where you are?
Well, I'm actually from Pittsburgh.
Okay.
And I met my husband in college, and we got married, and he's from here, so that's how I ended up here. And I went on to, I have a bachelor's in psychology, and I got my master's in education at U of D Mercy now. And I was a teacher, a school teacher, grade school teacher for a while, and I was lucky enough to be able to stay home with my kids when I started to have my children. And when they started to get older, I realized that I wanted to do something to give back. And I've always been very intrigued by education, obviously. And when I learned about the Lennon Center, I read that they had an education-based program, and that really appealed to me. So I decided to get involved, and I volunteered a couple times a week, every week, and I began to run an education program because it wasn't really as organized. It was more like, okay, someone shows up, then they get a class. So I decided, and when I was there, Laura Dias was the director, and she was like, Mariann, do what you want to do. And so I set up where we would have classes, and they would receive material assistance when they attended class. And we started with maybe one or two girls, and really got to know them and their families, which was wonderful. And an opportunity came up for me to be employed there, and so I took that. And I developed the program, as I was there longer, and finally I got an opportunity to become director, and I love the idea of being director, and I really have worked hard to make this program where it's really an education-based program as well, because I'm a teacher. I believe when you have knowledge, you have power.
Absolutely. So there's a lot wrapped up in a summary that's there. So the Lennon Center, and it's a center, and where did it come from? How did the Lennon Center start, and where did it start?
So the Lennon Center started in this area, but it was by just a couple women that, after the Roe became the law, decided that they wanted to come together and think of what they could do, right? Because they were definitely pro-life women. And so they kind of sat around a table with coffee and talked about starting their own little center. And they did that, not at the area that we were at now, and it was kind of small, and then it grew a little bit, and then more people got interested in it, and they decided to move. In fact, originally it was called Metro Crisis Pregnancy Center. So that moved, and Joe Lennon and his wife became very involved in that project, and they decided to come to the location where we're at now at Ann Arbor Trail, and it was thus named the Lennon Center because they moved the location and founded it.
So this is a center for women who are pregnant or have had their babies, and
right.
So let's talk about the options that women have.
Right.
And the women who come to your center, would it be fair to say that a lot of them may not be married?
Yep, that's very true.
Okay.
Yes.
And even I imagine some women who are married,
yes,
who are getting pressure from family friends to do things and
right,
or to keep their babies. And
right,
so the whole idea is that you're there to encourage keeping the baby as a right to choose.
Absolutely. And if it is a choice, right, we have to look at that choice too, right? So typically when we sit down with the girl, we try to talk about what she's thinking. I think it's really important to find out, what is she thinking about? And we kind of categorize, is she very abortion-minded? Is she abortion-determined? Is she here just to learn about us? Not everybody who comes is abortion-minded or, thinking about it. But primarily, we want to figure out, what is this client really looking for? And we do that by sitting down and having a conversation with her, either on the phone or in person. And so then we would figure out, okay, so what are you thinking? And the best way to proceed is to make sure you have a positive pregnancy test and then talk about an ultrasound.
So is there an average age that the women who come to you?
Yes.
That's
a great question.
Where do you see that starting?
Most people picture that teenager, right?
Right.
And in actuality, it's more like someone who's 20 to 25. And if you think about that girl, she's probably living out of the house. She's not in school. She's either looking for a job or has a job. And she may already have, most abortion-minded women already have a child, right? So that's our biggest demographic. And I would say the teen would be the next one. But we often think of just like that teenager, right? What is she going to do? But it's really just that woman. And sometimes it's a girl at that age, she's in college, right? She's in the middle of figuring out what she wants to do with her life. And this circumstance presents itself, and she's faced with a tough decision.
So when the woman comes to see you, and I hate to say girl because girl is like, I think of young kids, but
Right.
anybody can become there. So a woman comes to see you, and they're how do they present themselves? Like they're worried, they're scared, they're what's going on in their minds?
Right, all of the above, right? They're worried, they're scared. Many times they're alone because maybe it was a situation where they weren't really necessary in a committed relationship with their partner, right? And so they're facing a lot of different adversaries if you think about it, because maybe they're unemployed, right? They're nervous about that, the economy, especially now, right? And they're just haven't really told their parents, right? They might have not have told anyone. And so that's part of our job, right? To get like, what are you most worried about? What's on your mind? Let's talk. And obviously the women today are barraged with different ways that they can achieve an abortion, right? And now we know we can do it chemically at home for that first trimester. So that's why it's important to make contact with this woman, really talk to her, and just get her to calm down and to think.
So you mentioned they come in and they're alone. And it's got to be a really, really lonely time for them, because if they can't tell their parents or whoever it was, the man that they were with,
Right.
or all those sort of
Their
things.
boss, right? Their roommate, whatever it is, they're worried about that, and rightfully so.
So what do you tell a young woman who comes in and this is, you're here, let's get past. What do you have to tell them they have to get past?
The first thing we got to do is make sure you have a positive pregnancy test, right? And let's make sure that pregnancy is actually viable. Let's have an ultrasound. It gives us a chance to just really see what's going on with her. We know that the chance of miscarriage is 12 to 13%, right? Ectopic pregnancy, we want to make sure that that baby is not growing outside the womb, right? And forming in the tube, which is very, very dangerous. We want to give her sound medical advice about what's exactly happening with her and how far along she is.
So when the women come in, how far along is there? Like, I'm waited way too long, or I just maybe anticipated something, I need a test? Where does
All
that
the
range?
above, right? It's just, it's very individual. For some people, because they can take a test so easily now, you can buy them anywhere, they might have a positive, and we still want to, make sure that that's really true when they get to the center as well. And then, of course, we can't see we won't do an ultrasound if it's less than 6 weeks, because you won't see anything. No one, no matter where you go, it's just too early to be able to see that. So we encourage them to wait till at least 6 weeks. And then, if we have a viable pregnancy, then we can sit down and counsel them and talk to them.
So the counseling is it partially with what's going on with them physically, and the baby, the development of the baby? How about getting them to talk to the people that they may be keeping as a secret from?
Right. So we talk about that. So Our nurse manager, first of all, will talk to her about what we just saw on the screen, right? And then typically she'll hand that person off to me, and then we'll sit and talk. Even though I might have talked to her already, I want to sit down again and say, hey, what'd you see? What did you learn? You know, what is that? And then we talk about what's going on in the rest of the world for her, right? Who does she need to talk to? Is there someone who's really pushing her and she's not really sure? Is there somebody who you need to tell soon and you haven't told? Who in your family knows? Who do you think is giving you good advice? And tell me, what are your biggest worries? Is it so we can start a conversation?
You give them how to tell someone?
Yeah.
What do you say to someone?
Yeah, we talk about it. Sometimes we even just act it out a little bit, like, you know, you're worried about talking to your dad or whatever it is, you know, just say that. How does that usually go at home for you? Who are the people that you think are kind of, you know, that are on your side? You know, who's been supporting you? Who have you told so far? And then we can make a conversation from there, for sure.
So once you get to that point, you've gotten that through the discussion,
Mm-hmm.
how many people do you get to stay with your program and how many take another course?
And that's a good question because it's always changing, right? So obviously, you can work very hard with somebody, follow them, phone calls, texts. Most clients like to be texted as far as, you know, instead of calls. And then we can figure out, oh, is she going to come back? Does it seem like she's not interested anymore? Sometimes it's just they just cut off communication themselves, right? And then I might have a client who's not really sure, and I'll say, why don't you come back in and see us during parenting class? Why don't you just sit and watch class for a little bit and see if this seems like, you know, something you'd like to attend? And when you get into an environment where you realize other people, I'm not alone, right? There's other women who are going through what I'm going through. That really helps break the ice too, helps the client to relax. And maybe she can imagine a world where she can do all the things that she's worried about not doing, right?
So how much of it is a financial concern that I'm either not working or I'm working a job that doesn't give me benefits. I'm not going to get maternity leave. How am I going to keep the little place that I have?
It's a big part of it. It's a big part of it.
How do you help them get past that part of it?
Well, I encourage them, you know, in the state of Michigan, you can get services from, you know, through WIC. I encourage them to try to apply for that, see if they qualify, right? Which would allow them to get food. And in the state of Michigan, a mom can get her, if she qualifies for that, she can get all of her appointments covered, right? Her doctor's appointments.
Is this pre-birth too?
Pre-birth and then a year after birth.
So you can help them get lined up with with the
and pretty much when you get connected with those, you know, the social services, you can pretty much get. It's not that hard to fill out all that stuff. And we have a medical director, Dr. Haddad. He's in Dearborn. He reads all of our scans. So he knows, you know, obviously we can see if the baby's viable, but then he definitely gives his yes to that. Or if we see something that maybe we'll call his attention to, maybe we need to take a good look at this. He's great about seeing our clients as well, especially a client who's really not sure what she wants to do, or maybe she's at risk of miscarriage. So that's another way to kind of get another verification for that woman. And she might even start, you know, a relationship with their practice and want to continue.
So all of we're going to take a break in a minute, but real important part of what you're doing is you're doing a service, and that's not free.
No.
You have a website?
Yes, we do.
What is the website for the Lennon Center?
LennonCenter.org.
Lennon Center. And by miracle of technology, look, it's right here, right in front of us. Isn't that amazing?
That's wonderful.
And is there a phone number that there's a contact number
Sure.
people want to reach out? What's that number?
313-277-5637.
So we're going to continue our discussion with Mariann Bolton, who is the executive director of the Lennon Pregnancy Center, like Crisis Center,
Lennon Center.
Lennon Help Center for people who have these issues. We're going to get some words about Kiwanis. Don't go away. We're going to come back and talk about, once we get past the pregnancy part, there's more support that's needed, and the Lennon Center has a big component for that. Don't go away.
Who is a kid? Well, that's a kid. And another. Look, a gaggle of them. Or is it a herd? Litter? Pride. But what about her? Tell her she's not a kid. Or him. So how do we tell who is a kid? Height? Age, maybe. But some of us have to grow up faster than others. A kid. A kid. A kid wants to make the world better. And one day, he just might. Is a kid fearless? Vulnerable? Strong? Nervous? Yes. 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 Kiwanis is 600,000 kids at heart doing all the little and big things it takes to help children around the world. Because kids need Kiwanis. All of them.
Welcome back to KiwaniTalk. I'm your host, Gary Gardner. On this special episode, we're talking with Mariann Bolton from the Lennon Center, and we're talking about life.
That's right.
And how important it is, and how people who are in the process of bringing new life into the world can get some help.
Absolutely.
Especially when they're alone, isolated, or feel maybe even desperate.
Right.
So you've got this program where you're helping the women get through. You've got the medical care. You have an association with a physician that helps you out?
Yes, Dr. Haddad. Dr. Haddad is our medical director, and he's in Dearborn as well on Telegraph. And he reads all of our ultrasounds to be sure there's nothing there medically that we don't pick up. And he's just a great support for us.
Do you do your own ultrasounds, or do you have?
Yes, we have a sonographer,
okay, and
we have a nurse manager.
So all that's right there. And
right.
The physical location of the Lennon Center is on Ann Arbor Trail, which is between Ford Road and Warren.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And it's just west of Telegraph Road.
That's correct, like a block and a half in.
And you can right there, it's in Dearborn Heights.
Absolutely, you got it.
So the support that the women receive, you point them in the direction of the financial and medical assistance from the state.
Right.
But you need the education part of it. And
yeah.
what education advice do you give? How to do what?
Well, first of all, like the development of your baby, right, inside of you. What a miracle that is, right? To know how far along you are in development, you know, what's happening inside of you with your baby. We have lots of guest speakers that I invite all the time. I've had nurses come to talk. I've had just maybe even on, do you want to breastfeed your baby, right? Just have someone come and give a talk on that, or a class. And then, of course, childbirth. That's a whole other chapter in someone's life when they're preparing to deliver that baby. And then what do I do with this baby when I get home now, right? We want to do a whole bunch of stuff on that as well. How to bathe my baby, swaddle my baby. Where do I put my baby to sleep? How do I install my baby in the car? I mean, once my car seat's installed, how do I put my baby in here, right? And so that's what we're all about. We have assistance all the way up to size 5T in clothing, so we figured just keep educating moms while their child's a toddler as well, until they're almost ready to go to school.
For the education, it takes two to tango, okay? Do you get the fathers involved at all?
Yeah, we love to get dads involved. In fact, we have an evening class on Tuesdays, and we're starting to get 3 or 4 dads showing up for that as well. And I have some dads who come on Zoom because maybe mom's out working, and so they want to, learn too, right? We want to have to know how to do all this stuff and learn about baby's development. And so, yeah, I'd say right now I probably have 5 or 6 dads that are pretty good participators, pretty solid.
And you mentioned in passing that you have these materials, so you have
yes.
clothing. So what other?
Yes.
Having a baby is complicated, and it's consumptive of your finances and resources like diapers and food.
Correct.
And so what kind of assistance does the Lennon Center provide to mothers after the birth of their children?
Right, so diapers and wipes always we have. We also have maternity clothes, which is great, so before she gets there. We also pretty much have things like blankets, swaddlers. We accept donations, of course, for things that are gently used. We try to apply to foundations that we know that are generous with us, like the Catholic Foundation, the TWOS Foundation. and they will give us grant money that we might set aside just for car seats. So we've been trying to do things like that. Said when we find someone that is open to giving us money through a grant, we try to find material items that women really need and are very expensive to have. So
if someone's out there watching the show, if they wanted to help donate, they could call
Yes.
313-277-5637.
absolutely.
And you'd be happy to talk to them.
Of course.
And
of course.
and your website?
Is lennoncenter.org.
Is there a click-to-pay component on your site, I hope?
Yes, there is.
There you
Always
go.
there's a donor side and a client side to our website.
Do you have any fundraisers or activities that you try to bring money in? What do you do for
That's
that?
a great question. So we have an annual fundraiser every fall, which is for, actually a good part of our donations comes from that. We also run smaller campaigns, like we have at Christmas or the New Year, we might have a campaign. We're also going to have this year, for the first time, a fundraiser at Downey Brewery in Dearborn. And it's just going to be a small social setting where we want to start attracting young people, kind of have them come in. We're going to have some barbecue, meet other people who are pro-life like yourself, and just talk about ways that they can support us.
There's a need for this, and there's a number of women that come through, and over the course of say, a 12-month time frame, how many women would you help along with their giving, either come in and stay, come in and leave, go right through until 5T? How many do you have at any one time?
I would say about 450 women come through our doors per year. Not all of them are staying for the education and all of it. Even if they're registered just to have an ultrasound, I would say our client service is about 450 people a year.
And you mentioned, again, education classes, and is there any mandatory thing you have to do to get services, or do you preach religion, or do you preach abstinence? What do you do to
So
your education?
those are great questions. So in order to be part of our material assistance program, there are education classes attached to that, and you have a choice of coming in person or you can attend by way of Zoom. And we just ask that you attend class in order to receive material assistance. Now, sometimes we have a woman who absolutely cannot participate at all. Maybe she's just lost her home and she found out about us, or maybe she just had a baby and she knows she can't continue. She might even, we've had calls just directly from the hospital, right? I'm leaving, I don't have anything. So we'll put together like an emergency assistance bag for her. But our typical clients who are part of the parenting program, we have a well-oiled machine that if you are virtual, a Google form pops up at the end and you can put your material assistance needs. We have wonderful volunteers that come that day. They put bags together for our clients, and our client would pick that up in the afternoon, right after class. So they would have that for the week.
So volunteer, again,
Right.
It's not just the financial part, but you need physical bodies there
We
to
need
help.
bodies, right, hands.
Okay, so what kind of volunteer commitment would someone be there? What would you need to do from them?
Well, someone might just want to be an ultrasound shadow, attend the ultrasound shadow. So we don't want the sonographer to be alone with the client, so it could be an awkward feeling, right, for both. So we have a shadow who just is present, might not talk, just there. That's a great some women really like that opportunity. We have a great need for people to help us with putting those material assistance bags together so they can be ready for the afternoon when the clients come to pick them up. And we have a very large resource room where when they get a copy of that Google form, they found out the sizes, the sex of the baby, what they need, they put it together, put their name on it, and we stack it up for pickup time. Another great way to do is just maybe we need help answering the phone sometimes, right? I might get busy, maybe someone at work was sick, they have a sick child, they've got to go home to their kids, we're shorthanded. That's another thing that people can do, is just help us with things like that as well.
And what hours is the Lennon Center open?
That's a great question. So we are open from 9 to 3. We see clients on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays from 9 to 3.
And the rest of the time, if someone calls up and there's a crisis, I need to talk to someone.
Right.
How does that work?
So obviously we can pick up through the machine. We can find, we can find the number and pick up the message. There's also ways of texting us, right? They can get to us. We work closely with a group called Life Advancement Group, and they're across a lot of different states, and when a girl is searching for an abortion, our name also pops up, and we get an ability to text her as well and say, hey, how's it going? You know, what are you looking for? And start a dialogue with her via text and try to, so that's another way that she can reach me at all hours, you know, even late at night.
So the need is present, and there's all this drumbeat for right to choose, get rid of
Absolutely,
this. But how do you, we've down the last couple of minutes, how do you counter that? What's the message that you try to give?
I think the best message to give somebody is if it's truly a choice, then listen to our side too, right? Try to learn everything you can before you make a decision like that, and think about what's possible. Don't just, you know, run off and think, oh my gosh, I'm so scared, I can't do this, right? Talk to somebody about it. Come in and meet us. Let us talk to you about what it is that you really are worried about. Find out who can help you. If it really is a choice, you have to hear both sides.
And you're not judgy.
No.
That's a good thing. So you've been around for how long? Has the Lennon Center been here?
Since the Lennon Center, since 1994,
And
at this location.
At this location, but the whole concept's been around for a while.
Yes.
Where do you see the Lennon Center going? Is there a foundation? Is there a long-term project, long-term prospects?
Yeah, that's some things that we've been talking about. One dream that we really have is we would like to be an abortion pill reversal center, which is going to take a lot of manpower, a lot of time. I know it's possible because other centers have already started to do that. So we know that the primary way a young woman has an abortion right now is through the abortion pill. And that comes in two parts. And so there is an ability now when a woman, maybe she takes that first pill and she's like, I don't really want to do this, to have that reversed. And so what we want to do is to become an abortion pill reversal center as well, which would be a great hope of ours, so we can meet that girl and go, okay, let's try to get you on some progesterone, which would help that baby stay viable, and really meet her so that we can just eliminate a lot of those first-term abortions.
Well, it seems that the Lennon Center has a great leader in this executive
Thank you.
director, Mariann
Thank
Bolton.
you.
You've got a great, you know, mission, and it's out there,
Yeah.
and life is so very, very important. And it seems that the Lennon Center, all the people who work there, they're nice people.
They've got to be nice people. Yeah, they're the best. They really have a great team, great volunteers that always come in with a smile on their face. They're always happy to do whatever we ask. And, you know, if we're going to be who we are, we've got to have joy. We've got to have joy. We can't be sullen. Even when it looks like the enemy might be getting closer to the, you know, to the gate, we can't give up, because that's what God tells us. Don't give up.
Well, thank you, Mariann Bolton. Thank you very much. Thank you for tuning in. See you next time. Bye-bye.